Hi, everybody. Very happy to be live. Uh, Jesse, would you like to introduce us to yourself and your books?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Jesse Sutanto. I'm the author of Dial A for Aunties, Four Aunties and a Wedding, and my most recent book is Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers. And that came out, I think, almost 2 weeks ago, and it's been a very exciting time for me.
I can imagine. What's the reception been like to it so far?
So in the UK, it's just been incredible. I was just telling my husband that usually when, with books coming out, it's like a lot of excitement and then it comes out and then it's silence. It kind of drops off a cliff. But with Vera in the UK, oh my gosh, I mean, it's just been like good news after good news. So it's just been so exciting. Yeah, I'm really just blown away by the reception in the UK.
That's brilliant. Before we get started talking about Vera, because I've been reading the book,
Hmm.
actually put it down to come and do this interview.
Hmm.
Um, your Twitter handle is absolutely brilliant. Why do you call yourself? How did you come up with that?
Oh my gosh, it was such a long time ago. Like I was on a writing forum, and so we all had like an avatar and like like a screen name. So my avatar, I was born in the year of the ox in Chinese horoscope, and so I actually was trying to draw a cow, I guess, but I'm really bad at it. So it actually ended up looking like a hippo. So everyone called me Hippo, um, and and that just stuck. And so when I like now my writing friends, they call me Hippo, and when I met some of them in person, they were like, "Wait, am I supposed to call you Jesse or can I still call you Hippo? Because it feels so weird calling you Jesse." And I was like, "Yeah, no, it feels weird coming from you." So when I started my Twitter account, of course, I had to go with the writing Hippo.
It was brilliant. Yeah, it's such a good Twitter handle. Um, how so Vera? Let's talk about Vera. Um, she's such a good character in a book.
Mm.
From the first page with her, I was hooked. Um, what inspired her?
I mean, I have to say probably my mom and like just kind of all of the Chinese aunties that I've grown up around. Vera is really very much my mom with the dial turned up to 100. I dedicated the book to her because Vera is her. And she read it. I was really worried because my mom is very honest when she does not like something that I've written. Um, so yeah, she read it and she was like, "I approve of this. I approve of Vera." Vera knows like what's what, and I was like, "Oh, thank God!" Oh,
Hey, your mum is right. Vera does know what's what.
yeah.
I feel like you almost need a service where you could book her to come into your life and sort you out.
Yeah, pretty much.
It'd be brilliant. Um, I also like that. I'm trying not to give away any spoilers, but I mean, I haven't actually read to the end yet. I think I'm about
Hmm.
80% in.
Hmm.
Um, I like the way she kind of approaches the crime scene
Hmm.
as well.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think my mom has ever been to any crime scenes, but that is kind of like her approach to most situations. And it's so funny because I currently I'm in Singapore, and yesterday I there was like an event that I attended at a library, and it was like a book club event, and we were kind of sharing like fun things that we've done recently. And there was like this Chinese auntie, I think she's like in her 70s, and she was like, "Oh, I recently I was invited to take part in like a pre-dementia study." And so they gave me a test to see if like I had any of the symptoms. And then she was like, "Oh, and it was so badly done. Like, the test was not good enough. And so I tested negative." And I told them, like, they need to do it right because if they did, then I would probably test positive. And I thought that was like the most Chinese auntie response ever. Like, oh, you like PhD graduates, with your fancy degrees and your research, like you didn't do the dementia test right, like let me rewrite it for you. So, and I thought like, oh my god, that is so Vera, and that really needs to be in like a future book of mine.
Is there going to be more books with Vera in?
I really hope that there will be. We are actually currently discussing with my publisher, because it really depends on how well this one does, whether or not my publishers would want a second book.
But you said that the reaction so far has been really good, so hopefully.
Yeah, yeah, I hope so. I mean, in the UK, it's been good. So we're just checking with the US publisher. I think it has done decently well in the US as well. So fingers crossed that they want more.
So what started you off on your writing journey? What sort of got you into wanting to be an author?
So truthfully, it was after I graduated um, from undergrad, I kind of realized that I've just been so mediocre at everything else that isn't writing or reading related. So I thought, okay, I think I really should narrow it down, because I'm not very good at most things. But I think I'm pretty good at writing, and I could be really good at it if I gave it a good go. So that was pretty much what started me on that journey.
And you seem to like sort of having books with quite a particular sort of flair, like a Chinese auntie sort of doing
Hmm.
things. Is that
Yeah.
a would you write sort of something different to that, or do you think you'd always have that kind of like vibe to your book?
So the Chinese aunties, it comes very naturally to me because that's what I grew up with, and I consider it payback, for almost 40 years of having to deal with that. And it's just so easy to me. But I am writing in other genres. Like I have young adult suspense books, I have a middle grade fantasy series, and in the fall, actually, I will have a very twisty, dark adult thriller coming out. It's called I'm Not Done With You Yet, and it's very different. There are no aunties characters, no comedy in it. Um, so I'm very excited about it to see like how readers like it. So yeah, we'll see how that goes.
What can you tell us? What more can you tell us about your thriller that's coming out in? Did you say August?
Yes, it should be out in August. So it's about toxic female friendship between two authors, one who is much more successful than the other, and it's about obsession because I'm just so intrigued by the idea of like being so obsessed by someone that you're willing to give up everything, in order to kind of chase after this person.
Um, in my research for you, it said that you became the first writer of colour to win the UK's Comedy Women in Print Prize. What was that like?
Yeah. Oh my God, it was so unreal. So about 2 days, I think, after I won it, my husband uh, was spending time with our daughter, and he said, Mama is the funniest female author in the UK, like in the whole country. She's the funniest female author, and I was like, oh my God, like stop exaggerating. And then he was like, no, 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 I'm not exaggerating. This is literally what this prize means. and and then I got teary-eyed. I was like it sank in, and I was like, oh my God, you're right. Like I need to take a moment to to kind of let it sink in because it's so mind-blowing. And so this year, I got to be one of the judges for the Comedy Women in Prize. And I'm reading these books, and we've had like one round of discussion and voting already to get the short list. And I'm just like, oh my God, how did my book win? Because so much thought went into like our discussions. We're like, well, um, but was this book like laugh out loud funny? Is that what we want to be representing the prize? Or um, does it have like an important underlying message? Just so many considerations. And so I'm just like, okay, I can't believe that my book won, because this year's batch is just so amazing. I can't wait for the next round of judging.
And it's quite tricky, I would imagine, to write comedy well in a book because everybody's sense of
Mm-hmm.
humors are very different.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's actually really hard. I actually started out writing darker stuff like young adult suspense. And I always thought like, oh, comedy is easy. But actually, I find that comedy is perhaps one of the hardest things to write. The other thing that I find really hard to write are romantic relationships. I find that really challenging as well. Murder is a lot easier to write.
um, I mean, I think some of the characters just bring comedy with them, don't they? So going back to
Yeah,
Vera, I don't think that she can
yeah,
be anything but funny at times.
yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Like I was telling my husband, one of the reasons why I write Chinese aunties characters is because I come across a lot of them in, TV shows or books or whatever. And then I get really frustrated that they're not utilized throughout the whole story. They're kind of just like side characters. And I told my husband, they're so good. They're so full of potential for comedy. Um, and you literally can throw in like Asian aunties into any genre and it would be hilarious. Like Asian aunties meets Bridgerton, it'll be amazing. And so yeah, they're definitely underused.
They definitely are. I'm imagining Vera meets Bridgerton now.
Mm-hmm.
I think she would get
Yes.
everybody sorted.
Oh yes.
All the matchups would be done really quickly.
Yes, exactly.
Um, I don't think it's just her though. In the book, like all the kind of side characters are brilliant as well.
Mm.
So you've
Oh,
got like
thank
this
you.
sort of rotating kind of cast almost of her suspects and I don't know, just people that are sort of drawn into the orbit, don't you? Of
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
like she's got this kind of powerful aura that kind of brings everybody into her. But they're also like really richly created and
Mm-hmm.
interesting.
Oh, thank you.
What was I going to say about that? So when you when you were thinking about them, do you did you know from the beginning how it was going to end? Like I don't know how it's going to end, obviously, because I've not got there yet. But
Yeah, so Vera was the first ever whodunit I have ever written. Because with all of my other books, even the suspense or, Dial A for Aunties, they're not whodunits because from the very beginning whodunit. The main character killed the guy. Um, but with Vera, it was a genuine mystery. And I didn't know how to write one. And so I had to kind of do a Google search, like how to write a whodunit. And the overriding advice was that you should know who did it and then go backwards from there. So I figured out who did it. Um, and then I went backwards to like, okay, like, well, why did they do it? And then with each scene, I had to kind of think, oh, what is the killer doing in this scene? That's from like a different character's point of view or whatever. Because even though the killer is behind the scenes, they can't just be like uh, doing nothing. They don't just stop existing because they're not on the page. So I had to be like, oh, okay, well, what are they doing? um what, like, are they doing something malicious, or are they just trying to like hide their trail, and that's why this happens and that happens. So yeah, it was so complicated. um and I kept saying to my husband, like, "Oh my God, whose bright idea was it to write a whodunit? Terrible idea. I never want to do this again." But but then it ended up being really fun. So
How did that change from your normal writing process? Are you sort of one of these authors that is, kind of very down with what exactly you know is going to happen in the book? Do you plot it out
hmm
and know it
yes.
thoroughly, or are you one of these that just makes it up as you?
hmm so I used to be what's called a pantser, like just writing from the seat of my pants. No, no plotting at all. No idea where the story was gonna end up. But although I had a lot of fun doing that, but my drafts were really messy, and oftentimes I would have to just rip it out and rewrite like the majority of the book. So I can't afford to do that anymore because I have a lot of deadlines. So now I plot really meticulously. Like I have a synopsis, which is like 7 pages long. And then I also have like a chapter by chapter outline. And my characters know like that they need to follow the outline. Like I hear of, authors being like, oh no, my characters just surprise me. And I'm like, no, no, my characters don't surprise me because they know what's good for them. Like I'm a Chinese mother. Like I don't let things get out of control.
I've now got an image of you like sat at your computer telling your characters off because they want
Yeah.
to go a different way.
Yeah, yeah, like behave.
We've got a couple of hellos on the stream. So Laura and Donna are watching, although Donna's at work. Sorry, Donna. trying to watch at work apparently. Um,
Oh.
we're distracting her. I wouldn't be able to watch at work. Have you had any like TV or film interest in your books?
Yes. So Ballet for Aunties will be turned into a movie with Netflix. I know they have a script which they are currently editing, so that's really exciting. I haven't read it yet, so I'm very, very excited. And Vera Wong has sold its TV rights. We're actually going to be announcing it in like about a week. So I'm very, very excited about that.
Brilliant. Um, how much? So you've not even seen the script for Day A for Aunties yet?
No, I haven't.
Would you want to make a cameo in the
Um,
adaptation?
oh my gosh. Yes, I always told like my husband, like I really wanna be one of like a random auntie just in the background, like just lining up or something with like very big hair and like big shoulder pads.
Will they let, so will they let you as part of like an adapt? I guess you don't actually know the answer to this. Is part of an adaptation that you could go and see it being filmed? Could you
Yes,
actually do
so
that? Do you think?
yeah, that actually surprised me. That was actually in the Netflix contract. They were like, "Oh, I'm allowed said visits." Like they'll fly me to wherever it's being filmed. So I was like, "Oh my God, I didn't know you could have these things in the contract." And then but then they did say like, "Oh, for cameos." Like they love authors doing cameos, but um what's tricky about that is because um, I'm I'm not like American, so then it becomes tricky with like the worker rights or work visas or whatever. So then I don't know if like I will actually legally be allowed to do a cameo, but let's hope I can.
Well, that's really good. See, we're learning so much from like talking to you. I didn't realise you
Yeah.
could do that. That's really interesting. I wonder if it's just
Mhm.
Netflix that have that kind of stuff in their contracts, or if it's other ones as well.
Yeah, the other ones I don't think they had that specified, like, oh, set visits, etc. But it just seems very cruel, like if you were to have like an adaptation and then the author was not allowed to do a set
Yeah, I
visit.
mean, you'd imagine that you would be able to go visit.
Yeah.
Um, and I guess it's kind of nice to know that they want the authors to make cameos, even if in your case
Mm,
it might not be
yeah. Yeah.
possible. Um,
Yes.
because you kind of imagine that for a lot of people, unless things like this happen, you don't always
Hmm.
know what an author looks like, even
Yeah,
if they're
yeah,
like
that's
the author of
true.
your favorite book. It's not
Yeah.
always like
Yeah.
so I'm trying to think that there might have been loads of things I've watched on Netflix and I've just never
Mm,
noticed that the author's in there.
yeah. Yeah.
Um, that's really interesting. Oh, it's good that they're being adapted.
Yeah, it's so exciting.
Did you say you started out with YA kind of suspense as
Yes.
well?
Yeah, I did.
What are those called? Just in case.
Um,
Well,
so
we have a few.
my first book is called The Obsession, and that's a YA suspense. Um, and well, my thing for like obsessive relationships, I guess. It's about a boy who becomes obsessed with a girl and starts stalking her. Um, and then he catches her doing something really bad and then uses it to blackmail her into dating him. Yeah, so that was a really fun book. That one also sold the TV rights actually, but we have not been able to announce it. So hopefully we can announce soon.
The that's kind of interesting because you're victim in the book, and I don't think it's giving away any spoilers because they're the victim quite early on, aren't they? And you sort of know
Mm-hmm.
very quickly that they're not a very nice person.
Oh
Like
yes.
you don't actually you're kind of reading it and you don't actually feel that bad for the
Feel
victim.
that by yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
What in because he's really horrible.
Hmm. I'm so glad that you said that because I have read a couple of reviews where they're like, "Oh my God, I can't believe that you're rooting for Delilah because like she literally killed a person." And and when I read that, I was like, "Well, yeah, she did, but is it really that bad?" I mean, it is really bad, but is it really that bad?
I mean, it's a fictional crime, so I think you can say
Yeah.
that it's like it's okay because
Yeah.
he's a
Okay. Well,
really
I am
horrible guy.
completely on your side here.
You don't like him. I'm reading it and I'm going, it's really refreshing because I think I like all the people I'm meant to like, and I really don't like the guy who's dead.
Yeah.
And it's kind of nice to see sort of some of the people that are coming out of his orbit
Yeah.
recovering as well through the
Yeah.
book, which is quite good.
Yes. Yeah. Mm.
And it's interesting that you get that other aspect of like maybe like the victims of someone and how
Mhm.
they sort of process what's happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I'm so flattered that you've read it. That's just so amazing to know.
I've
Thank
not
you.
finished yet.
Okay.
That's what I was doing before the interview. I was just like, I started it in the week, but I hadn't had a chance to read it, and I was like, I'm going to see how far
Yeah.
I can get.
Oh.
Donna said at work she's making sandwiches, so she's on downstairs on her own. That's why she can watch the interview. Um, Laura's asked one of our book group's favourite questions, which is, have you ever acted out a scene to help with the writing process?
Oh my gosh. So, the third book that when I started writing, I was very new to writing and I was still learning a lot. And then I read the advice like, oh, try acting out your scenes. And at the time, I was writing another YA suspense, and the main character had killed a grown man. And so I said to my husband, I don't know how she's gonna move the body because it's a teenage girl and he's like a fully grown adult male. Um, can you please act as a dead body and I'm gonna try and move you? He's so game for it, so he just lay down on the floor. I was like trying to like I was trying I like lifted his legs. I was trying to like drag him. Oh, it was so difficult. It was so much more difficult than I had thought it would be. And finally, what we found was that I was able to roll him, but I wasn't able to pull him. And, I think I was able to move him like 1 inch or something, but rolling him, I could just about manage. So that actually really helped. So in this scene, I ended up having the girl roll him, and I had to make sure that they were on like a slight slope, to kind of help her. But I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't tried it out with my husband.
It's a good answer, and you're not alone. A lot of
Yeah,
authors we've interviewed have had similar stories, like
yeah.
they've, like, tried hitting their husbands, like, in proposed, like, with things or, like, tied each other up
Yeah,
and seen if they could
yeah.
escape.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I haven't done that yet, but I should. I don't think I will be able to get out of that though.
So I think one of the other things that I, have really enjoyed in the book is just the amount of food. There's, like,
Yeah.
food and tea all the way through, isn't there, that it makes you hungry as you're reading it.
Mhm.
Does that Are you a big fan of that kind of food? Do you,
Oh yeah, totally. So I think food is such a wonderful way of coming together. And it's also a really nice way of sharing a piece of someone's culture. Because, you bring up food, and then no matter which culture a person is from, their face will light up and they're like, yay, food. Um, so I love being able to kind of share some of that in my books. And with Vera Wong, originally I didn't know what kind of shop she would own. So I was like, oh, maybe like a bakery. But then to be honest, like I don't know enough about baking, and I feel like a lot of cozy mysteries are set in like bakeries or donut shops. And I just wouldn't be able to stand out. So so then I was like, oh, maybe a tea house. And then of course, she's gonna have to cook a lot of food because that's just what her character does. So yeah, it was a very big and significant part of the book that I did quite a bit of research for.
I'm kind of mashing her up with the bakery lady next door, though. I think they should go into
Yeah,
business together.
yes.
And she should sell her teas to bring out the baking,
Yeah, I think so.
like a joint business. Are you happy being called a cozy mystery?
Uh-huh. Yeah, I think it fits quite neatly into that cozy mystery genre, doesn't it? And I love cozy mysteries. I had to read quite a few of them to prepare to write Vera, and I just love them so much. Like the Thursday Murder Club series, they're so good. Have you read those?
They are. I've read two of them. They're brilliant, aren't
Mm-hmm.
they?
They're so good, and it's like this kind of rare series that like actually gets better with each book he writes.
I think, yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I think when you see a series as well,
Hmm.
often that you do see that kind of progression because the author gets to know
Hmm.
the characters more as well. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's why they
Yeah.
feel like they get better
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
as they go. It's just sometimes we have authors when we do kind of cozy mystery
Mm-hmm.
things, and not everybody likes to be put into that category. It is like really
Mm-hmm.
popular at the moment, which I think is helping,
Mm-hmm.
but there are some
Yeah.
authors that are a bit,
Oh, that's so interesting. What do they prefer? Like just straight up mystery?
yeah, like a mystery or maybe like a golden age kind of crime, or
What's a
um,
golden age crime? Oh, is that like where the characters are slightly older or?
I think it's more like like a throwback to sort of a Christie-esque type
Oh,
crime.
I see. Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, that's really good to know.
What? So I'm going to ask you some more of our book group's favourite questions because you did really well with the acting out scene one. What are your most
Yeah.
what are your most memorable moments as an author?
Most memorable, oh my gosh. Well, so many. Let me try to think of like the most recent one.
You can have more than one.
Um, yeah. The most recent one. Oh, okay. So, recently, one of the school moms at my daughter's school reached out to me and she was like, "Hey, you know, let's get lunch when you're free." And so I was like, "Oh yeah, sure, great." And I told my daughter, I was like, "Hey, I'm having lunch with this boy's mom from her class, with Daniel's mom," and she was like, "Oh, Daniel. I think Daniel has a crush on me. He now he's like asking his mom to like take you out for lunch. Like clearly he has a crush." And I was like, "Okay, like don't be so sure of yourself, okay?" 'Cause I was like, "I'm pretty sure she's asking me out because I'm a famous author and not because, like of Daniel having a crush on you." So so, I went for lunch and then she was like, my daughter was like, "Well, which is it? Is it because Daniel likes me or is it because her mom was like impressed with you being an author?" And I was like, "I don't, you know what? I think it was neither." But yeah, it was just really funny that my daughters they keep me very humble. So they don't really give a crap that I'm an author.
Have you ever gone into like their schools or anything there and done a talk about being an author? Or
Yes. So I was published in 2021, right? So it's been like 2 years. They've been at the school for a year, and they had like a book fair last year, and I was not invited. Okay, I was not one of the authors, and I was like, "Oh, how dare they? I will always remember this for as long as I live." And then this year, they did actually invite me as one of the authors, and I was like, "Oh, I'm so honored." Finally.
did they not know you were an author before?
Yeah, no, they didn't, and I didn't want to reach out because I thought it would be really awkward if I reached out and then they're like, "Oh, actually, our roster is full." So I was just kind of waiting, like, um, waiting in my corner, very sulkily. So it's good that they did reach out.
Do you have any events coming up that you've got planned?
Yeah, so I'm actually in Singapore because I had two events yesterday and they were so fun. I haven't done many in-person events at all because of the pandemic. So they were only my third in-person events ever. So I was very nervous, but it was so good, and I was just so blown away by the turnout. It was quite a small space, so like the seating was very limited. And then a lot of people were just standing, like they stood for the whole hour. I mean, I would not stand for a whole hour to listen to me talk. So I was like really, really touched.
Very humble for someone who's got like a Netflix adaptation and
Oh,
your
thank
books come
you.
out. I think people would want to stand for an hour. I think I would if I wanted to listen to my favorite author. I would go and
Oh,
stand for an hour.
yeah, if it was my favorite author, yeah, I would actually stand for a whole hour. I mean, I would complain about it though. I'd be like, why didn't they prepare seats? But I would still stand.
Um, well, that's it. That's a good segue into one of our questions we ask every author, which is, what have you read recently that you've really enjoyed?
Oh, so I recently read Yellow Face by R.F. Kuang. I know it's like the big book of the year. I'm seeing it everywhere, and it's just so well deserved. It's one of those rare moments where the book actually like matches the hype. And I've read R.F. Kuang's other books, and it's just so obvious to me that she's an actual genius. So yeah, Yellowface, so good. I was cringing as I was reading it because it felt so real. And it takes place, within the publishing industry, and I'm just like, oh my God, this is too real and too uncomfortable, but like in a really good way.
Any others? Oh,
So right now I am reading The Spare Room by Andrea Bartz. And I'm listening to the audiobook The Writing Retreat by Julia Bartz. I didn't mean to time it together, but I was like, oh, I'm like reading the two sisters books at the same time. And they're both really, really good. They're both very suspenseful. Very like compulsively readable. I'm actually, like looking forward to like downtime where I can pick it up again. So it's always a good sign.
yeah, I think it's when you discover something that you've really enjoyed, it's always
Mm,
the books that you want to go back to,
yeah.
isn't it?
Yes, exactly.
My favorite read recently was Kate Foster's The Maiden.
Ooh, okay. I'll have to check that out.
It's a historical kind of crime
Hmm.
based on a real crime in Edinburgh.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, I really I have so much admiration for anyone who does historicals or anything based on like a true crime because the amount of research is just a hard no for me.
Do you not like doing any research for your books, or because you must have done
N-
some research for
Yeah.
yours?
Yeah, but I try to avoid it when I can because I'm very lazy. So this is why you will find that a lot of my characters are photographers because I was a wedding photographer when I lived in Oxford. So I know everything about photography, and I need to do very, very minimal research. Actually, I don't need to do any research on that. A lot of my characters are also writers because I'm a writer. So whenever I can, I will choose the path of least research possible.
There's there's like little hints to modern kind of life though, isn't there, in all of your books? Do you research things for that? Because there's like NFTs mentioned in Vera. There's also
Oh gosh,
you
yeah.
touched on Love is Blind, I think, at one point.
Oh, oh my God, I love that you noticed the Love is Blind reference because I kind of like snuck that in there and I fully expected my editor to be like, What are you doing? Like, take this out." But she didn't. And so it's in there. And it brings me so much joy. And I just keep waiting for like a Love is Blind fan to notice.
I've outed myself. Yeah, I'm a big Love is Blind fan.
Yes, me too. I'm so obsessed with the show. Yeah, I had to research NFTs. So my husband uh, is a data scientist, so I was asking him a lot of stuff about NFTs. So that was really helpful. Yeah, so I really like to also rely on my husband or my close friends um, for research purposes. So I'm always like, well, tell me everything, like, oh, like one of my friends, she has a degree in forensics psychology. So I reach out to her a lot for like for example, the police procedure. I'm like, well, what actually happens when a dead body is found in a tea house? Because I didn't know. Um, and I asked her, I had to research that. And it was so completely different from what I thought would actually happen. I thought it was like in CSI where like a whole team would kind of just swoop in and cordon everything off and like take a billion photos and get DNA samples and stuff. And then it turns out that's not actually what happened. So yeah, I found that really interesting. So I do research, for stuff like that.
Yeah, I think CSI has it's called a CSI effect, isn't it? That people sort of
Yeah.
get their idea of what forensics is from there, and then they're kind of
Mm-hmm.
very not accurate
Yeah.
in any
Yes.
way.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Um, so you use your friends for research. I thought I like that. That's quite
Mm-hmm.
good.
Yes.
Yeah,
they're
exercise.
so helpful. Like my best friend is a psychologist. So, I'm always reaching out to her, especially for like my books, which have like the theme of obsession. Then I would ask her, like, oh, with someone with this kind of like um, diagnosis, like how would they behave, stuff like that. I have friends who are doctors, so then I often ask them, like, oh yeah, like I asked one of them, oh, like where can you stab someone and have it not be deadly immediately, like have them live for like about 2 days before they die. And it was really interesting. He was like, because at first I thought it was the around the belly area, and he was like, no, like nothing below the chest area, um, because if you get a wound like in your abdomen, then you would probably die pretty quickly. So I was like, did not know that. That's very, very interesting.
Donna says forensics, like everything else, is ruled by money or the lack of,
Mm-hmm.
which I would imagine is true. I thought you were going to tell me that you'd researched all the different types of teas that she made, or.
Oh, oh yes. Well, yeah, that too. I mean, I did also research the teas. I have a very like strong relationship with tea, but I still had to research it for this book.
Good. One of my favourite author chat questions to ask, and you're new to us, so I can ask all my old favourites. It's great.
Yes.
Um, is would you ever make a graphic novel version of one of your books?
Oh my gosh, I would love that, but I just don't know how to. I mean, I was kind of looking into that, and I did some research, like, into the format of a graphic novel, and I was like, whoa, this is just a whole new kind of writing. And I realized like I would have to learn it from scratch. And I'm not a very fast learner, because it took me like 10 years to get my first ever publishing deal. So I was like, I don't want to take another 10 years to get good enough to get published. So like, forget it. It's too much work.
Donna's asked if you're going to any of the UK literary festivals.
Um, I have not been invited, so not that I'm bitter about that or anything. But yeah, if I did get an invite, then yes, I would love to go.
So, Donna, we need to be getting on to the people who are running some of the UK literary festivals, clearly.
Yes.
Um, Donna does author interviews as well. Uh,
Ah.
quite a big supporter of authors in the
Yeah.
UK,
Oh, fun.
which is good. Uh, so no UK literary festivals. You got any literary? Have you been to a literary festival though, as an author?
You know what? I actually have not because I was published in 2021, so it was like mid pandemic. And then things just really started opening up like around sometime mid last year. But I really, really want to. I've asked my publishers to pitch me like to the LA Times Book Festival. So yeah, I'm really hoping that either later this year or sometime next year I'll be able to go.
Harrogate Crime Festival's a good one over here, just for
Mm-hmm.
networking and getting your book out.
Oh, I bet. I mean,
With
I
them.
bet these things are so fun. Oh, I am actually going to Thriller Fest uh in June. So I'm very excited about that. Very nervous too. Because I get very sweaty when I'm nervous. I don't know about you. So I was actually literally like doing a bit of shopping in Singapore and I was like, I don't know, this color, the sweat patches would show up as like a real consideration.
That's so funny. um, how do you find social media then? Because I feel like your books are quite popular on social media. Is that
Mhm.
how did you get that kind of aspect going?
That's really mostly thanks to my publishers. They're the ones who send it out to like influencers and stuff. I used to be really active on Twitter, but I think the algorithm started really hating me for some reason. I want to blame it on Elon Musk, but it's probably not him. But truly, like a few months ago, I just noticed that my tweets were not getting any engagement. So I've become really uh, active on Instagram now, and I love it. Instagram, like people are so friendly, and it's so easy to share aspects of very random aspects of my life, and just get like a lot of engagement from people.
I do not understand Instagram. I would tell people I'm too old. I don't get Instagram or TikTok or things like that. It's not
Mhm.
there.
Yeah,
But TikTok's
yeah.
really good for books, isn't it? Like a lot of people.
Oh, TikTok is so good for books, and I hate it because like I I just can't come up with enough content for TikTok. Like this is all videos, and it takes so long, to shoot a like a 5-second video. It takes 30 minutes. So the more you do, the more time it takes, and I kind of burn out with TikTok. Um, Yeah, I find Instagram a lot more manageable.
Yeah, that makes sense, I guess, because you can do just pictures and things as well.
Yeah,
And not. And if you've
yeah.
been a photographer, that's going to be.
Well, no, I don't even use my photography because I just like literally take my phone and take a photo of, my pancakes. So, yeah, there's like nothing artistic about my photos now.
Do you think, though, that it has helped? Because obviously, as a wedding photographer, you've worked with lots, when you were doing that, you worked with lots of
Hmm.
people, and you must see a lot of different sides of kind of human nature, and then that's kind of reflected in your books, I think, like that kind of.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely for sure. It's in Dal for Aunties that was really um, I was really taking a lot of my experience as a wedding photographer because I find that so when I was doing photography in my wedding packages, I included like an engagement shoot. Um, and I love the engagement shoot because it's just a couple. They're like, it's just about them as a couple and it's very relaxed. and we could, take our time to find like the most flattering light and, etc. And then I find that a lot of the times at weddings, actually more often than not, the couple is not actually happy because they're so stressed out that any little thing that goes wrong is magnified. Like the number of times, that they got upset because the flowers were wrong, or somebody said something. It's just such a stressful situation. And then there's like this myth, I feel, that it's supposed to be the happiest day of your life, and that's a really high expectation to have um, on any day. Like if you think about it, you're like, you wake up and you're like, okay, well, today is going to be the happiest day of my life. That's like a really huge pressure. So I actually put that into Dial A for Aunties, and really showed kind of what a stressful day it actually is for the couple.
I'm trying to think back. I don't recall my wedding as being particularly stressful.
Yeah, that's really good. I feel like that really shows like that you kind of focused on what was really important. And I find that a lot of couples get carried away by the other things.
I think it depends on how big your wedding is
Yeah.
as well.
Oh
Maybe
yeah.
if you're going for like a really huge kind of
Mm-hmm.
affair, then it probably is a lot more stressful.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
But yeah, that's really interesting. We've got about 5 minutes left.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so you told us about your thing coming out in August. What are you writing at the
Mm-hmm.
moment?
So I just finished writing um a love story. So and it's not a comedy. So I found it really challenging to write because I mentioned before, like the two things that I find hard are like comedy and then romantic relationships. And I find that whenever I write romantic relationships and I kind of like start flailing, then I'm like, oh, let me throw in like hijinks and a funny moment to kind of keep the pace, exciting. But in this one, I really couldn't do that. I really wanted to focus on the love story, and it ended up being such an amazing experience. I cried while writing it, and I've never done that before. And I was like, oh no, 0 out of 10. I hated this experience. Why am I making myself sad? But then I sent it to my agent, and then she started crying when she read it, and I was like, oh, her sorrow brought me so much joy. Yes, I'm gonna do this again. So she sent it to my US publisher now. So we're just kind of waiting to hear back from them about whether or not they want to buy the story. So fingers crossed they do.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Do you publish all of your different genres under the same author name?
Yeah, I do actually. I've been very lucky in that my publishers have been very open to using the same name. I know a lot of authors who were asked to use different pen names. So, but my agent, she's been able to negotiate that for me.
That's really good because, like, I know other authors that publish, and even
Yeah.
sometimes if it's just a different genre of crime, they might choose a
Yes.
slightly different name,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is interesting. And then you've got quite a broad spread of
Yeah.
things that you write all under the same name.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's good because readers don't just read one thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And my agent was saying, I think that it's just really helpful for all of the books involved.
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess because obviously someone like me who's just started with Vera,
Mm-hmm.
when I finish this, which will probably be very soon because I'm not very far
Mm-hmm.
off the end and I need to know what's going to happen, can then go and just look for your name in a bookshop and find the other books as well.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
a lot more easily, which is great. That's what you
Yes.
want to be able to do rather than having to go
Yes, exactly.
and do the research of being like, well, actually, I want to read
Yeah.
more that
Yeah,
this
yeah,
author's written, but
exactly.
they've done it under 3 different pen names, and now we've got to work out who they
Mhm.
are.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then I only have to have the one social media account. I don't need to juggle like multiple. That would just break my brain.
Would you have had to so if you did have a different pen name, would you have had different accounts under that?
Yeah, so the friend that I'm thinking of who has different pen names, that is what she's had to do. And then she's having to be like active on both accounts, which I'm like, how?
Yeah, that must be really hard.
Yeah, that's so time consuming.
And you already have like, you've got daughters, writing,
Mm-hmm.
publishing
Yeah,
things. Must be hard to
yes.
juggle anyway, what you've already got to do.
Oh yeah, really hard. I am known to my school mom friends as dropping all of the balls that can possibly be dropped. So
I don't think that's true. Um, so finish us off, because we've only got a couple of minutes left. Remind us what
mhm,
people are gonna go and buy if they're watching this and have
mhm.
enjoyed listening to you. What books are they off to buy?
Oh, thank you so much. So Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers is out wherever books are sold, and I know that in the UK, very excitingly, they are in. It's in Tesco's, Sainsbury's, and Asda's, as well as all the bookstores. So yeah, I can't believe that they're in all three major supermarkets. So very happy about that. Oh, and if any of you like see it in the supermarkets, can you please take a photo and tag me on Instagram because I really want to see it in the store.
In the stores, right? I'll keep an eye
Yeah.
out. I haven't seen it. I was in Asda yesterday and I hadn't seen it, but that might just be my Asda
Okay.
being a bit rubbish. I don't think they're always the best at updating the books. But I'll keep an eye out at the other supermarkets near me and we'll get photos. We've heard it here first, everyone in the book group. You're gonna get inundated with pictures of your book in supermarkets.
Oh, thank you so much. I hope so.
And then all that's left to say is thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was so fun.